All right, so back to mobile versus immobile. You said that the sap is actually immobile as well. Can you expand on that a little?
Yeah. So for a mobile nutrient, a physical symptom of a mobile nutrient, say nitrogen, that yellowing leaf, older leaf, that's a visual symptom, can be a visual symptom of nitrogen deficiency. And the reason you're seeing that yellowing is because nitrogen is incredibly mobile within the plant. The plant can take nitrogen from the old leaf and move it to the new leaf on demand. And when the plant is not being supplied with enough nitrogen through the roots, it starts stealing from the cookie jar, the old leaf. And when it does it over and over and over again, you end up with that yellowing visual symptom. And really, so mobile nutrient, the real name for mobile nutrients is phloem mobile. So all nutrients are xylem mobile, but not all nutrients are phloem mobile. So that is a great example of a phloem mobile nutrient. A low phloem or no phloem would be calcium. Calcium actually can move every now and again under very stressful situations, but it usually means cellular death. And I hope that the plants are not getting to that state. But for the majority of the plants in their growing conditions, calcium is has very low mobility. So when the plant is taking up calcium through the roots and up into the xylem. Look at the xylem as a one-way elevator. So the plant will fill the calcium in the old leaves first, and then the middle leaves, and then the new leaves, which is why that physical calcium deficiency is found in the top of the plant, as where nitrogen deficiency is found at the bottom of the plant. The difference between phloem mobile, which is nitrogen, and not phloem mobile, which is calcium. But calcium, if you put it on as a foliar and you do spray the top of the plant, calcium stays where it's at. So we love foliars, but they are a little bit of a Band-Aid, because those new leaves that barely got any foliar at all in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they could be calcium deficient, even though you just put on a foliar. It's because the plant can't take from those old leaves and move up to the new leaves. It's not able to do that with calcium. Calcium is xylem mobile only.
Oh boy. Okay, so couple points, because that was good. That was really good. It has been a basic understanding that in soil chemistry, that the plant can control calcium. The plant can take up excess calcium and then use it as an exudate. So is that more or less like a reformulation of the calcium, perhaps, like turning it into maybe a secondary metabolite to leak it back out?
Well, I mean, the majority of calcium actually can be, when you're talking about too much calcium taken up, not about roots, about shoots. The calcium is taken up and stored in the newer leaves. Actually, it's very rare to see that you see actually more calcium in the newer than the older leaf, which is why foggy conditions, too much water, too little water, all affecting transpiration affects calcium. So when you're talking about root exudates, that could mean that the roots are actually taking up calcium and making into something else and pushing it back out, because calcium won't be taken up from the shoots and pushed down. But the roots are kind of little engines in themselves. I mean, when cobalt is taken up, the majority is moved down to the roots. So I don't know about calcium exudates, but I do know that when the plant is needing it for the shoots and then also going into the fruit, it's a one-way elevator. Majority. Sure. A lot of nutrients are stored in the roots, and we do sap analysis of the roots for that very specific reason, actually.
So that's just, again, such a great way to explain it, because the roots themselves are almost like a separate entity to the plant. It's like they are connected to the soil. And I often ask this of people on the show is, all right, so tell me, where does the plant end and the soil begin? And it's one of those, go ahead, I'll ask it to you. Where do you think the plant ends and the soil begins?
I mean, probably where the xylem starts.
So the rhizosphere?
Could be, but well, no, the xylem's not in the rhizosphere. The xylem is inside the plant, taking up water, macro and micronutrients, going up into that vascular tissue itself. The rhizosphere, no, that's like where endophytes are, and that's where mycorrhizal fungi are attached with their hyphae. You know, that's like the living zone that you're speaking of.
Gotcha.
And that's really where, I mean, it might not even be where the soil, you know, ends and where the root begins. It might even be where that's the area where all the beneficial and pathogenic soil species are, living species.
Exactly.
I mean, that's that zone.
And it's such a trick question, because then if you take into consideration water, then there is no definition between the plant and the soil, because that rhizosphere expands and contracts based on soil moisture. And that's why I love that question. It's a real heady one.